looking at some of these commitments around the state this past week. So last week on the podcast, we had quite a few to talk through, and that was because we were going off of 2 weeks of commitments. But this week we only have last week's commitments to talk through. And just looking at the Division I commits this past week, we had 3. And Derek Holmes we mentioned last week, but he actually committed. It was at least tweeted out. We tweeted out on Monday. So I'm just going to mention that again, that Derek Holmes committed to Mercyhurst University. And then Ethan Bass committed to Wake Forest. He flipped from Illinois to Wake Forest. And then Austin Musso committed to Arizona State. He was a future gamer in 2023 for Team Illinois, and now he's on Arizona State. And then looking at Division II, we had 3 commitments. Division III, we had 10 commitments. NAIA, we had 3 commitments. And then junior college, we had 10 commitments. So still a pretty big week of commitments last week. So be on the lookout this Friday for a recruiting roundup. It'll be from this week's commitments and last week's commitments. So should be a pretty big story looking through some of these commitments in the past couple weeks.
Yeah, and Gavin, it's not even really about getting in there on these guys, but you do a tremendous job planning out this podcast, the Bullpen, and being very detailed. And just one of the notes I see in here is we've had 120 state game commits. So that to me is a mind-blowing number. It was August 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th this year when we ran it. So we're talking 3 months and we've had 120 commits. And there are guys that come to that event committed. So this number is strictly guys that have committed after that event that were uncommitted and now have committed after that event. And 26 of them have been Division I commitments. So that was just something I wanted to shout out. And then, alongside that, we get players have the opportunity to submit a commitment request when they do commit. And, that is one of the ways that we are alerted to a player committing to an Illinois, to a Wake Forest, to a Kansas, to an Arizona State. But when we get those commitment requests sent into us, we don't just take it blindly, and just go ahead and update somebody's profile. We try to verify that, right? So I kind of wanted to let you guys talk on that or expand on that if you wanted to. But just the fact that we then verify it through social media before we'll tweet anything out, or if a player will actually send us a personalized email, that's always probably the best way to just verify to us that, hey, I have committed, this is legitimate, and you guys are good to post it. Because that's something I feel it's almost our duty, being Prep Baseball Illinois, is to post commitments. Players and coaches throughout this state, do an incredible job supporting us as a company, and players coming through, trusting in us to be a good resource for them, to be seen by these colleges, and they pay money to come to events and tournaments and whatever it may be. So when that time comes, when they finally make that commitment, and that's a huge day for a high school athlete to be able to say they committed to a college, all their hard work has paid off over the years, and it's a huge thing for the parents as well. I just feel like whether a guy has come to an event, come to 20 events, has come to a main event, is committing to the national championship Division I program, or if they're committing to a smaller school, an NAIA. I played at NAIA, so I'm not trying to say that, or a JUCO or a D2, D3. Like, it's part of our job is to put out that commitment and to publicize it. And to me, that's a thank you we can give to the player. And, our goal is to put out as much information on high school players as possible out there, and commitments is a huge part of that. So I don't know what else you guys want to say on that, but I believe that that's just something that we wanted to put out there. And
kind of like you said, Drew, we verify through their Twitter or their Instagram that they actually committed. And to doing so, I don't think we want to be posting a player's commitment just because they sent in a request on our website unless they have announced it themselves. I've always felt like it's not our place to make their announcement. I want that to be something that they do themselves. So I know we try and make sure that they have posted that commitment prior to us tweeting anything out. So I think that's a huge thing that players should probably try and realize, is that we don't want to just put their commitment in their profile or tweet it out until they have announced that, because that is a huge honor and thing for them to get to do, and it just doesn't seem right for us to be
That's
the one announcing that.
that's a great point. And the other part of that that comes with it is if I'm a senior in high school and I'm getting recruited by 7 schools, and I've talked to 7 schools, I've gone on visits, the last thing that I want to do when I've, made up my decision is, hey, I'm going to commit to this school, is to just put it out on Twitter and blast it out and not tell those other coaches. Part of the recruiting process is, I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy. There's a lot of like growing up stages that take place throughout the process, and being a grown up, being mature and handling the process correctly is a huge thing. And that's, calling every coach that has recruited you and thanking them and giving them the time of day and thanking them for the effort that they've put into you and the fact that they've thought highly enough of you as a person and a player to want you to play in their organization. I think that's a prerequisite. That is something that is a must for a player to do, is to reach out to those coaches that have recruited them and to just make them aware that, hey, thank you for your efforts in recruiting me at this time. I've chosen to commit to this school. And it is a hard decision, and I think coaches understand that, and everybody wants to get a yes. That's a college coach, right? They're recruiting you to get a yes. Hearing no is a punch in the gut, but it's part of coaching. They know that, and what they respect is a high school athlete who is mature enough to say it to them and to call them, and for them to not hear through social media or to hear through a buddy that texts them like, oh, hey, I heard, such and such committed to here. It's because you never know where those coaches are going to be. It's a small world. It's a small baseball community, and you never want to burn any bridges. So don't start while you're a high schooler committing to a school. So sorry for the tangent there.
No, you're good. It was a lot of good information packed in there, so I always appreciate that, Drew. But so I don't want to get into this. We'll do this another episode, but we have had a lot of commitments from the future games across the nation, but also within Illinois as well. So we'll kind of get into that and maybe break that down here. I don't know, what do you guys think? A couple episodes, maybe next episode or something, and just see how that goes.